When you really want a relationship and when it's very difficult to find one, what do you think happens when somebody does fall into your life? What's the likelihood of you obsessing over holding on to them, spending less attention to whether they're the right fit for you? In this video, I want to go over what I think is the most dangerous mindset that you can have in dating, how it impacts you before and after meeting someone, and just proven ways to overcome it. So this is the mindset of scarcity, and it drastically impacts your ability to make the right decisions. And one of the first things I want to get into here is research done by psychologist Eldar Shafir. And one of the standouts of his studies was when he went to go to India to observe sugarcane farmers. Now, these are people who earn the bulk of their income once a year after a harvest and then have to manage it to make sure it lasts until next year. So what they tested was their cognitive skills before and after they got paid. And sure enough, once they weren't so worried about money, once they weren't so attached to an outcome, their IQ literally went up by 10 points. We just create this tunnel vision around things that worry us and stress us out. We just can't think as rationally. And it's unfortunately why payday loan services are as successful as they are. So when you take something as emotionally driven like dating, and add that element of scarcity to it, what do you think happens? Well, you can see how easy it is then to cling to anyone who does come into your life. Like, for one, it is hard to have high standards when you don't have options. I get that. But it's also hard to build genuine chemistry with someone when you're so fixated on winning them over. This is the scarcity loop. It keeps poor people poor, stressed people stressed. It keeps you in the same cycle that your dating life has always been in. But how do you break out of it? Well, here's some advice based on my own experience. And it also is connected to the solutions provided in some of the research that I mentioned earlier. And the first part is just the importance of recognition of it and just giving yourself some slack. You're influenced less on logic and more on emotions. If you can spot this when it happens, it can help you from overthinking your messages or obsessing over their response. Secondly, if you want a mentality of abundance, it's going to take a real dedicated effort. For guys, this may mean putting real effort into your appearance, from choosing the right style and clothes that properly fit to the right hairstyle or losing some pounds. Then if you're going the route of dating apps, it means putting time into getting the best pictures that you possibly can and spending no less than 20 minutes a day on them. It's harder to feel scarcity when you can always set up another date. But what about when you do actually start regularly going on dates and seeing people? Well, I found for me the best priority to have was to focus on the experience gained and not the individual. I could get rejected, I could get ghosted, I could have a lot of things that are actually out of my control, and they could potentially derail me from actually growing, from actually being somebody that is desirable, or just have that confirmation that, yeah, women like me, that I'm not just cursed, that I'm not just, doomed, that I don't have some like personality flaws. And it's just the best, because you're otherwise too in the moment. You're otherwise too analytical. It's just too circumstantial. There are things out of your control and there are things that you can improve on. But if you focus on the experience, then everything is a lesson. And if something does work out with somebody, then that's a bonus. And, you don't have the wisdom to know any better until you get that experience. You don't know, what, she isn't right for me. Like, as guys, we're always just kind of on the chase. A lot of women just have a lot of options. That's just the reality of what it is, that they're often the ones to say no. And when you can get to the point where you're starting to say no, when you're not the one who's chasing, or at least doing it half the time, you'll be in a way, way better position. I usually give as much actionable advice as I can, but sometimes it really is about the mindset. It really is about the perspective and just recognizing that these things do take time. And, I work with a lot of guys and I help them get back in the dating market or start out in the dating market for the first time. And a lot of them have spent the last 10 years either working on their career, or they ended up marrying somebody that was like the first person that they dated. And I think a perspective that I found that helps is just recognizing that, dating is like the major life pillar, just like your career. But your career takes decades to get into a spot where you're happy with. And most people, it's probably not, or maybe they do for a bit and they get fired. But it is a long-term grind. And I'm not saying you need to approach dating like that. I'm just like, it's literally, if you can actually plan it out, put dedicated effort, maybe you have to lose a bunch of weight first, I don't know, whatever it may be, the timeline to achieve it is so much higher or so much better than something like your career. Especially when you also had to like go to school for a bunch of years and the input to output is so much higher. It is worth it. However, maybe you don't have a lot of free time, but actually like plan around it. Plan how can you look better? How can you get more experience on dates and this and that? It's worth it, but you have to plan for it. You have to approach it more strategically, even though, we're led to believe that dating should just be natural and spontaneous. But you see guys, and myself included, when I just tried to make that happen, that I had the scarcity mindset. There was not a lot of women in my life. And then there's somebody that I really, really like. And then I get obsessed. And then I can't think. I get that tunnel vision. I'm just clingy, which is like, needy, controlling, which the biggest turnoff that I can have. And it wasn't until where I'm like, okay, I actually need to have confidence in myself to be able to meet somebody like that person I was being needy with relative ease, that they're not going to be the only woman in my life for the next X amount of months or years, and that I need to hold on to them. And, I know a lot of guys end up getting really upset at the dating market. It is superficial. It is different. I mean, even 10 years ago, when I started using Plenty of Fish, it was very different. And I'm not here to debate the difficulty of it in terms of how it is today versus yesterday. But you really only have two options. Vent if you have to, but staying single and staying mad and venting or getting mad all the time online and complaining, like that's not productive. That's just, you can stay in your room getting upset, or you can actually navigate it, put yourself in a position to succeed, even if it takes longer than you'd hope for, than you'd want. But anyway, I'm rambling here. I will talk to you guys again next week. Peace.